Welcome to Mini Web Tool. Have you ever been shopping online? You find the perfect thing, and then you hit the size chart, only to see it's 80 centimeters wide? Or, maybe you're following a DIY tutorial, and the person just casually throws out a measurement that sounds like a completely different language. Yeah, that little moment of frustration, it happens millions of times every single day, and it's all because the world is kind of split between two different ways of measuring things. The imperial system, feet, inches, pounds, and the metric system with its meters, centimeters, and kilograms. Now, what's really wild is just how one-sided this split is. About 95% of the entire world runs on metric. In science, it is the only standard. But for everyday life in places like the United States, imperial is still king. And that right there, that's the source of all the confusion. So being able to translate between these two isn't just some boring math problem. It's a super practical everyday skill. It's really the key to buying the right stuff, finishing your projects, and just communicating clearly with people and websites from all over the globe. Okay, so let's get into the frustrating part. Why is converting so annoying? It feels like it should be simple, so why do we all get stuck? Well, the big problem is that the two systems were never ever designed to be compatible. They're built on totally different ways of thinking. And this slide just nails that difference. The metric system, it's all logical. It's based on tens, 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 100 centimeters in a meter. It's just clean, simple. The imperial system, though, it's based on history. It's base 12. They're 12 inches in a foot. Why 12? Oh, it's a long story with ancient Romans and kings. But the point is, it doesn't really mesh with the way we normally count things, which is in tens. And that leads to some major pain points. First, the math is messy. It's always a multi-step thing where it's so easy to make a tiny mistake. Second is decimal confusion. This is a big one. If someone says they're 5.5 feet tall, that's 5.5 feet. So 5 feet 6 inches, not 5 feet 5 inches. And finally, when you search online for help, you just hit this wall of conflicting charts and bad info. It shouldn't be this hard. So, how do we finally clear all this up? How do we build a bridge between these two worlds? Well, that bridge is built on one single, absolute, unchanging fact. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. You ready? 1 inch is defined as exactly 2.54 centimeters. It's not about 2.5. Since 1959, the entire world agreed that this is the golden rule that connects the two systems. Every other conversion, feet to meters, miles to kilometers, it all starts with this one simple fact. Okay, now let's see how this golden rule actually works. We're going to put it to the test and do the math by hand. Let's take a really common height, 5 feet 8 inches. How do we turn that into centimeters? Well, we can't just multiply because we've got two different units here, feet and inches. So step one is to get everything into one unit. The easiest one is inches. We know 1 foot is 12 inches. So we take our 5 feet and we multiply it by 12. 5 times 12, that gives us 60 inches. Great, but remember the original height was 5 feet times 8 inches, so we got to add that extra 8 inches back in. 60 plus 8 gives us a grand total of 68 inches. Perfect. Now we have one single number to work with. And now for the final step. We bring in our golden rule. We take our total, 68 inches, and multiply by 2.54. And that gives us 172.72 centimeters. And that's it. That's the exact correct answer. It's just 2 steps. Get it all into inches, then multiply by 2.54. Okay, so that was one direction. But what about going the other way? Let's say a website says a desk is 190 centimeters tall, and you need to know if it'll fit in your room in feet and inches. This is where the math gets a little more fun. The process is pretty much the reverse. First, we're going to use the golden rule to turn our centimeters into a total number of inches. Then, we need to figure out how many whole feet are hiding in that number. And finally, we'll see what inches are left over at the end. Let's walk through it. 190 centimeters divided by 2.54 gives us about 74.8 inches. Now, nobody says something is 74.8 inches, right? So we divide that by 12 to find the feet. That gives us 6 point something. So the whole number, 6, that's our feet. Then we take those 6 feet, multiply back by 12 to get 72, and subtract that from our original 74.8 to find what's left. And after all that juggling, we get our answer. 190 centimeters is about 6 feet 2.8 inches, so just a little under 6'3". As you can see, you can totally do it, but wow, that was a lot of steps with a whole lot of places you could hit the wrong button on the calculator. Look, we proved we can do it. We get the theory, we know the golden rule. But let's be real for a second. You are not going to stand in the aisle of a store doing long division just to see if a shelf will fit in your car. Nobody has the time or patience for that. You've just learned the why behind the problem, but for your actual life, you just need the answer. You need it instantly, and you need it to be right. So now that we understand the headache, I want to show you a much smarter, faster way. A good tool is designed to fix those exact pain points we talked about. It gives you 2 separate boxes, one for feet and one for inches, so that whole decimal confusion thing we mentioned, it's impossible. The calculation is instant, and it's always accurate because it uses that golden rule perfectly every time. Plus, you can even control the precision. You can choose how many decimal places you want, which is great whether you're a woodworker or just buying a rug. So the difference is pretty stark, right? On one side, you have this manual process with 3, 4, maybe more steps, a huge risk of error, and it just eats up your time. On the other side, you have one step that's guaranteed, accurate, and instant. It's kind of a no-brainer. Okay, let's wrap this all up. It's time to recap everything we've covered. If you're going to walk away remembering anything, make it what's on this next slide. First, the world is split between the old, historical base 12 imperial system and the superlogical base 10 metric system. Second, the golden rule that connects them all is that 1 inch equals exactly 2.54 centimeters. Third, yeah, you can do the math yourself, but it's a clunky multi-step process. And finally, the right tool doesn't just give you an answer, it makes the whole problem disappear. So the next time you're faced with a measurement in centimeters, you're not going to have that moment of frustration. You'll know exactly what that number means, how it connects back to feet and inches, and you'll know exactly how to find that perfect translation in seconds. Ready to try it out? Just search for MiniWeb Tool Feet and Inches to CM Converter to find our free calculator and get your answer instantly. And for more explainers that make complicated stuff simple, be sure to subscribe to MiniWeb Tool. Thanks for watching.